detention staffing / county attorney. Are
Yeah.
these together, they coincide?
I think so, yeah,
Oh,
because
okay.
I had actually asked Casey to put this on the agenda because about a week ago, we were told we're going to be down to 3 detention officers. We had somebody who was let go, somebody who resigned, and now it's my understanding we're down to 2 detention officers. I don't know how we're going to run a detention center with 2 detention officers, so I thought we've got to bring it up to the commissioners.
So I was
To figure out what we
I was
do.
gone last week. Who have we lost?
Mr. Coleman left his, your last, was it last Friday?
You lost me last night.
And we lost you just last night.
Yeah,
Last night, I walked out.
and you, last Friday?
It was actually Wednesday.
Oh, Wednesday, okay.
It was supposed to be last Friday, but I extended a few extra days to help cover for the other loss.
Okay. And then we had to let someone go.
Do we have a common thread that's causing the quick turnover like this? Did you guys leave for the same reasons or different reasons? Do you
I
have-
would think training, I'm concerned about training, I'm concerned about pay.
I was not training nor paid. Mr. Allard over here, he has decided to change policy, which I have no problem with. But he is causing trouble with the handling of dispatch and detention officers. As he has it set up, at this stage, we have a female inmate. We are to go in, the detention is to go in and man the radio, and dispatch is to come out and dress them out. I am not trained to do the radio phones. She is not trained to do the inmates. That's, both of them's unethical and borderline against the law, if not against the law.
And the
And I
policy
will
was
not do
changed by
that.
the sheriff, just so we're clear.
Is that written down?
It has to be, where's it at in the policy, please?
That's what the sheriff. All I was asked to do was update you guys on the policy change.
For female, people who are being detained female, it's preferable to have a female pat them down or a procedure.
Yeah, so you're asking,
pat it down.
you'd like to see the written document, and you're saying there's not one, but the sheriff said so?
No, the sheriff said he's got it written down and got it updated.
Did he provide it to his right-hand man, the undersheriff?
I haven't seen it when I was in August.
Oh.
So that's your situation, that's, you walked off shift.
And I walked off shift and I will not come back.
So I'm assuming that
Yeah,
happened
and
last night.
I
but-
actually, to leave your command is very concerning to me. You walked off during your shift.
Yes, I did.
So that's,
Absolutely.
yeah, and that's concerning to me. I understand if you have some concerns and then you wait till the end of your shift and then you quit. But to walk off during your shift, that's,
I knew what I did.
yeah. So, I mean, that's done. We can't have that. Where we ended up having to have the sergeant stay until 4 in the morning. Then we had to have a deputy come. We're paying the deputy at 4 in the morning, time and a half to come and work at the detention center. I mean, we're in bad shape. And, Mr. Coleman was one of our best or better detention officers. He left. He did do a exit interview. We really want to make sure we get exit interviews and concerns that he listed in there, and now we're down to 2, and we can't run a jail. I was even trying to figure out last night how to run it with 3. If we did 8-hour shifts, nobody gets a day off. If we switch to 12-hour shifts, we're looking at, I think, some issues with being too tired and then just trying to figure out days off. So
Right.
right now, we've got 2 detention officers to run a jail with 16
16
inmates.
And we've, like I said in the past, we've had this advertised for months and we've got 0 applicants.
We just checked again yesterday, no
And we've had
applicants.
people come in and ask, and then when they find the rate of pay, they
Mhm.
just turn them off.
Mhm.
I mean, when they go to town pump and $2 an hour more, they can't blame them.
And was that a consideration for you?
Oh, most definitely.
Okay, for the work you have to do?
Yeah.
Well, and we're waiting to do,
Oh, yeah, the union thing's been
union-
forestalled by the union guy. We were trying to get the pay adjusted, but we haven't been able to get together with him as of this date.
And I know there's a lot, with different agency or different departments in the courthouse where there's a lot of they get this, we get this, and in unions, I know the Me Too clause, but in non-unions, and people are, a lot of different departments say, well, so-and-so gets this, and this department gets that. We can't compare apples to oranges. Detention, or even dispatch are different. They have different training. I mean, we're talking about safety issue for them, and safety issue for the detainees. I mean, we're talking about feeding them, make sure they have their medication when they start acting up. We had a gentleman in there who we had to keep in jail because he had no place to go, and he was causing some problems. And we couldn't send him to Warm Springs. He wasn't, that's just an example. So the jailers had to deal with a gentleman who had some serious dementia issues. So what we've got now is we've got 2 detention officers, and we can't run a jail with 2 detention officers. So we got to figure out. I was just talking to Under Sheriff Boone. Do we start looking at? We've got some DOC commits. Do we contact Department of Corrections and say we've got to give those back? We've got highway patrol people in there. We've got some nonviolent offenders. Do we have to shut down the jail? And then how do we do that? We contact other communities. We're talking Missoula's full. We think Flathead's, is it Flathead we were talking about? It's probably full. We can check with Sanders, and then we're going to have to pay them to house our people. But I think we can, it would hurt me to have to let some of the people in jail out because some of them are in on felonies, but we'd have to determine who are violent offenders and who have to stay and remain incarcerated for, safety issues to the community. Other ones we'd have to let out because we can't house them. Not with 2 detention officers. So it's a big.
Yeah, we're still short of dispatchers. We're about down to 3 deputies here.
Yeah, we have a deputy who just left. We have another one who is looking to go to Great Falls. So it'll be down to Sergeant Allard, Deputy Allard, Under Sheriff Boone, and Sheriff Bauer. So I don't know what to say other than I was kind of going over the policies last night from the Montana Detention and Jail Standards to see if they gave us. I was hoping, sometimes they'll say 1 teacher for 12 students, or 1 detention officer for 6 inmates. They don't really say that, which I can understand why you wouldn't, because it's kind of general, but it just talks about how you have to have enough staff, and we don't with 2 detention officers. We can't run them 12 hours a day with no days off.
Tom wasn't available the day to come in.
He left yesterday,
Yeah, so like the personnel just says, the facility has sufficient staff to perform all functions relating to the security, custody, and supervision of inmates, and is needed to operate the facility in conformance with the Montana jail standards. And we can't do that with 2 people. So
Mr. Coleman, on yours, I was looking at question 15 on Casey's form. It says, would you reapply to Mineral County if a future opportunity arose? And you checked yes. What would it take for you to come back?
Yeah, better pay, better management, the whole 9 yards, really. It would take a lot, but, I have a lot of passion for the job. I enjoy the job and what it stands for. But everything else just isn't there. And if those changes could be made, then...
What do you mean by the management part?
A lot of micromanagement that is not needed, as well as sudden policy changes or new rules that get put into place at the flick of a wrist that are never written down or brought to anybody else's attention right away. Whenever I've been at another job, they've changed the policy. They've had it written out. They have every employee sign it, and that's a good policy. It's not just, hey, this is what it is now. Follow it or you're in trouble. That's a problem with me.
Yeah, this is going to require some. We've been struggling with because I was in law enforcement, and I agree wholeheartedly with what you said, that these guys need more money. They're stuck in a dungeon, there's no windows, they're in there with bad people,
Yeah,
They-
it's not
no.
a job, I mean, I've got it a lot better.
and,
I sit at a desk and do paperwork. They're
and-
dealing with
and-
people who are throwing poop at them, you know?
right,
And
and,
they've got to be compensated.
and now that I'm in here, then I'm seeing, well, geez, everything that I think they deserve, you can only get so much blood out of a turnip.
That's right.
But but we're gonna have to decide, that's why it would be nice if Tom was here, because the only way, colleagues help me out, but the money is such that if we were to get Mr. Coleman back here and offer him $14 or $15 an hour, we're probably gonna have to do some kind of a, on the other side of the scale, something to allow for that. So, like, we might have to consider not hiring one more deputy that's vacant so that we can give them more pay, because the pay that we can offer, even through the union negotiations, isn't gonna be $15 an hour.
Right. And we understand that with the county, something
Yeah.
has to give.
What do we have more of a need for, jailers and dispatchers, higher pay, or
Right.
one or two more bodies on the street, or less bodies on the street? Right.
Covering this county.
So we're really gonna have to, or do we just have all the inmates close down the jail and just have it be farmed out?
And we were talking about we probably need one, if we could keep one, for transport.
Mhm.
I mean, if Highway Patrol brings somebody here arrested and we have to transport them to Sanders
Mm-hmm.
or wherever, or coming back for court. A lot of that can be done by VisionNet, but a defendant can say they want to assert their right to be here
Mm-hmm.
in person. And if we've got a contract with Weibo or something,
Mhm.
it's just, yeah. But we can't keep a jail running with 2 detention officers.
No, I agree.
I would like to note, I won't be coming back anytime soon. I have found other means of employment.
Okay. I was just using an example.
Yeah.
We're not holding your feet to
No,
the
I
fire.
got it, I got it.
Yeah,
See you next week. No.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think we just have to decide, I mean, brainstorm, or do we need to look at starting to talk to other, Sanders County, some other counties, see who can take what? We'll have to go through our list of who's, we're hoping maybe half, maybe 40% are DOC, which of course we get income from DOC, we get income from Highway Patrol that help us offset the costs, but,
Mhm.
and then we're gonna have to pay another county to house our people. And we can, we can whittle it down. Like I said, there's a couple people in there who are not violent offenders, but who I am concerned about because I believe they'll go out and continue to commit crimes.
Mhm.
But when it comes down to it, we can only probably hold the violent offenders, the people who are in for violent offenses.
And in the beginning, you're gonna have to have them transported for every court appearance, because I'm not sure the detention centers in all the locations have the video capabilities. And depending on the courthouses, even if they were transported to the courthouses, if they have court that day, they won't be able to accommodate us.
Right, and that's why we were saying we'd have to keep one detention officer who would basically be a transport person. Or when they get booked in, and even that would be tricky, because at 3 o'clock in the morning, is this person gonna be on call? Highway Patrol brings somebody in who,
Yeah, but we have to spread these people out over several different counties. One guy can't run all the counties and make it for court.
yeah.
And the average cost is anywhere from $62.50 to $75 a day per inmate.
Yeah.
Well, we've got 2 things here that seem to be the common thread. One is pay, which we commissioners have to work on, and the other one that's here is management, which you guys have to work on. Because that's Mr. Casper's entire problem, and that's a portion of Mr. Coleman's problem.
It's been the common thread in the other ones too.
Oh, really?
Let's quit.
So we need to help you, but you need to help yourself too. I don't know what's going on, but it's gonna have to improve it. Mr. Casper was willing to work for the pay twice. He quit once and came back. Appreciate you coming back, but I don't know what.
And
No, I won't ask you again.
And like I told you both times, it wasn't the pay. Better pay, be nice, but I can live on what I was getting.
Mhm. And
So I think
So-
maybe, I mean, do the commissioners, are you willing to authorize that we look into, I mean, we're gonna have to look into, and then we have to worry about contracts with our food supplier. We're gonna be breaching a contract there. Any kind of contracts we have with any kind of suppliers if we're closing down.
mhm.
I mean, you can
Well,
breach
actually,
contracts.
we haven't renewed our contract yet, have we? So we can terminate that at any time.
Okay, and you can breach contracts. I mean, it's not, when people say, oh, no, it's a contract, of course either side can break a contract,
Mhm.
but there's usually
Well, yeah, especially with
repercussion.
extenuating circumstances.
yeah, and there might even be something in the contract
Right.
that says, you know.
So that's what you're kind of looking to see if we should start moving forward with
Right,
moving
the
everybody
commissioners
out.
think if, yeah,
Mhm.
I just don't know how with, Under Sheriff Boone let me know yesterday that we've
Mhm.
had 0 applicants, so it's not like we can, and then also I would be concerned about throwing somebody in there just to have a warm body in a situation that could be unsafe when we
Mhm.
haven't provided them proper training, just to get
Mhm.
them in there so we can keep the place open.
Mhm.
So I just don't know how we're gonna keep the jail open with 2 people.
So how many are in there right now that we need to start moving?
16, I think? 15? Okay. And we're hoping maybe 6 or 7 are DOC,
Mhm.
which they'll take back, I mean, they're gonna have to take back and shuffle them someplace
Right.
else, because we've got
So
them
we
from
got about
different
7 or 8
counties.
we're gonna have to.
And I'm sure there's a couple we can let go on conditions.
So does Sanders County have room for,
Yeah, we haven't checked. We
So-
know Missoula's full, we know Flathead is it Flathead or Lake County? Lake County is full.
Mhm.
Was that the Valley?
For Valley, that could be a possibility too. And just see what we do. And then we have to figure out in the meantime, how are we gonna get people hired and trained?
We're not having transport people either. Put 5, 6 people in at one time.
To get them someplace else?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if that's gonna be like, if we talk to Sanders, if we're gonna have to ask them to come and get them. You know, and then we're gonna have to pay.
well, some of them are highway patrol inmates, they'll gladly transport their own guys to whatever in jail, wherever.
What's gonna happen with the current employees? The 2 detention officers right now?
Yeah, we're hoping to keep one.
One or 2
I don't know, even
transport.
maybe the second, because we were saying definitely one. We might have to keep
Yeah.
2, because there might be,
Mhm.
it's almost gonna have to be an on-call thing. Because there could be something at 2 o'clock in the morning, and highway patrol or even you guys are gonna bring them here. And then we're gonna have to figure out how to get them to where they're going. I mean, this is all just,
And we could offer them a job elsewhere in the county, like the vacant dispatch position, so they wouldn't lose a job necessarily for other opportunities, but. we
yeah,
might
because I don't
not-
even know with the 2 how we could keep them, just letting them know they're 8 to 5. I mean, and I don't even know if they'd be willing to consider still full-time, but it would be so up in the air. I mean, we have to sit down and figure this out.
When somebody's arrested and they're put in the booking room, and, I mean, and detention is there a rule on how long they can stay before they're transported somewhere?
No, not that I know
No,
of.
not really. I mean, you can't have them sleeping in the booking room, obviously. I mean, it's not a long-term holding, but a couple hours.
Yeah, and then whoever's the detention officer working there would be then responsible to transport them. So it would almost be like the lights are on at detention only when there's somebody coming in. And yeah, well, I mean, there's just still so much unknown other than it's crisis situation. I'm just letting the commissioners know of we can't keep the jail open right now, or that's my opinion. Well, we
Mhm.
can't. not with two people.
Agreed. All right, so I guess the next step is make calls to seniors, and the next step is,
So, yeah, we've got commission approval to start looking at
looks like
farming
that's
it out,
on.
and Boone and I will meet, and we'll go through the list today, and we'll start figuring out what we're gonna have to do, and then we have to worry about finding somebody who will take them.
Mhm.
And we'll keep the 2 detention officers on for right now, because this, I think, keep them on.
We'll have to keep them until the place is empty,
Yeah,
really.
yeah. And,
Because I don't see
As on
anybody
call.
just saying, yeah, we'll take them all.
yeah,
I mean, we might get one here, 2 there, nothing at all. If we get nothing, I don't know. Because 99% of the places are full in the state. I was told here a couple weeks ago, us and one other jail in the state were the only 2 that weren't full.
and that's when we'll have to start letting out the nonviolent offenders. Does anybody else have any comments or questions, any brainstorming, anything anybody can think of? I mean, we're open for suggestions, or I am.
Well, we've talked for a long time, Ellen, about the sheriff's office running a levy for law enforcement, and there was movement at one time and it was voted down fairly close. But, I mean, that would put more money there. And that's gonna be the answer in the long term. You can't pay, with the money that we have, we can't pay everybody $14 an hour because we don't have that money.
Right.
But if there was a law enforcement levy put out there,
Right, and then just, I would love to see, and I know this is,
there has to be some interest
in the
in
perfect
it.
world, yes, in the perfect, and I believe that there'd be a bigger pool if there was a better pay. I mean, I think we'd have more people
Well, yeah,
applying.
yeah.
And then if we had the ability, and it comes down to money. I think we'd have a better ability too, is if we hired somebody, the first 2 months is training. We pay them for training and we're not throwing them in maybe not as prepared as they should be. But it comes down to money. A lot of times. I mean, we've heard that there's concerns too about administration or supervision.
Sure.
Yeah. But we can't keep it open with 2 people. And I believe Under Sheriff Boone has talked to the Justice Court, letting them know we have people that owe us jail time. And so I can send out a formal letter to the Justice of the Peace and actually we just had one, I think, on Tuesday or Thursday in court. She was gonna schedule her jail time, and that's just, that'll have to go away.
So Mick, the county attorney sort of was surprised that you left your post. What angered you to such a degree that you did that? Are you
As I was told, I was told by Coleman and Lipinski, AJ told them that we were no longer allowed to wear our badge on duty because it could be used as a weapon. We were also told we had to wear clothes, off-street clothes, to work and change once we got there because we did not want to be considered part of the police force going from home to work and from work to home. There's no locker room area, anything like that for us to change. And with this added on to that portion right there of changing the policy on that, no, I don't need it.
Again, those policy changes were made by the sheriff, not me. Just asked me to pass it down to them.
And once again, like asked to see if they were written down, and
But with the sheriff, that's not,
Nice to have
that's not my
someone
turn.
here.
Yeah, that's why it would really be critical if the man himself was here. I mean, we might have to be considering changing the department from what we're seeing here today in terms of aligning the budget and how we fund it. I mean, if we're gonna pay, if we want a jail here, we're gonna have to do some dramatic things, not just with management, but with pay, and we're gonna need to figure it out while we've got, we have a lot of people absent from work right now in that department, and so we're gonna have to do some shuffling to adjust positions and possibly pay, and we need Tom to answer some questions so that we don't, it's his department, so we don't wanna micromanage it for him, we need him here to help us make those choices.
How long is he gone for, Ben?
I think he'll be back on Monday.
So would you feel, I mean, we can start working on this. How would you feel if we put this back on the agenda next Friday too? I think it's important that we just
Mhm.
keep it before the commissioner so we can let
Yeah.
you know how we're doing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because,
Thursday or Friday we meet. Don't we meet next Thursday too?
Oh, yeah, because
Yeah,
it's
Thursday and
beginning of the
Friday.
month, yeah. So if we,
Yeah,
if
Thursday
Casey
might
could just
be
squeeze
here.
us in somewhere, that'd be great to
Here
just,
on Fridays.
hmm.
might
just so we
be
can
here
let you know how
on
it's looking. Because I just don't, I don't know how we can go longer than today. Really, I mean, we're gonna be putting the, we'll have to ask detention officers if they're gonna work 12-hour days. I know law enforcement, I think Missoula, we were talking about their detention works 12-hour days, but we can't do that more than a couple days. They have to have days off, so in that meantime, we have to have everybody out.
Okay, well, thanks for the great news.
No, sorry. I thought I was coming in with 3 people, and I thought that was bad.
Mhm.
And then 2 people, that's really bad. It's
Mhm.
critical. All right. Okay, I'll let you move on to other business, and we'll get cracking on this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
You know, had bad pay here at the county, but we've never been in this situation. I mean, the pay was much worse. I remember when those guys were only making $7 and $8 an hour, but we always had a full staff. And so, little things are picking away at you. I'd like to ask the sheriff himself, you know, why he feels that they're so important that it's gotten to this point that we don't even have 2
We were
people.
even told we couldn't wear pins in our sleeve pockets.
You
The
mean,
inmates.
mean writing stick pens?
Well, the inmates may take the pens and use them for weapons. The pods are full of pencils.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between a pen and a pencil?
Well, it just seems like we've had a lot of turnover there
Yeah.
lately,
definitely.
and it all seems to stem from, you know,
Oh, yeah,
the
that's,
same situation, so.
And don't let that get in the way of you know, the pay.
No.
So,
No,
you know,
Oh, no, we-
we totally agree, and
we've been trying to balance between more cops in the street versus taking that pay and applying it to dispatch in jail. And now I think we know
it's critical.
that this is pretty critical,
And
and
also other things that I've heard of being purchased, you know, by the county for law enforcement, like a drug dog. You know, I mean, how long have we been in this county without a drug dog?
Mhm.
Do we need to spend that much money on it? You know, could that go towards, you know, salary of detention instead? I
Mhm.
mean, you know, things like that, or you know, as detention officers, when we hear something like that, you know,
yeah,
really?
right.
That's how much money you can spend on.
And I'm
on
not
that,
sure,
and-
maybe you guys can help me. I'm not sure that the money that he was looking at using for the drug dog, I'm not sure that can be used for wages, is that correct?
It could be for overtime, but
Could
maybe,
have
yeah.
been for overtime.
But his, in that specific example, maybe not, but I hear what he's saying is basically,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
whether it be binoculars or new guns or a dog
Yeah.
or whatever, you're saying that,
Spotting skulls.
what about the importance of us versus a toy?
Yeah.
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 Well, we were working on the pay. In fact, I don't know if you knew, but we had a big meeting set up with the union, and then he ended up bagging it at the last minute. That's on them, not us. And, but, that's why I really want to find out. I'm glad you guys were here, because the management issue needed to be heard by us and them. And,
And like I told Casey throughout my exit interview, I'm willing to, that doesn't have to stay confidential, all that information that I think can actually come out.
well, that's brave of you. Because I saw on one of these where the 1 is the lowest, and you actually wrote down 0.
Well, as far as I care, this can be my exit interview, and it can be very public.
Because it's on the camera.
That's right. That's one of the reasons I'm here.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you obliging me and coming back the second time. And don't worry, I will not look a gift horse in the mouth and ask you a third.
Well, no, I knew what this was going to cost, what the trouble is. But like you said, this has to be addressed. This is for the best of the county, is what I'm thinking of. I'm not thinking the best for Mick. I'm thinking the best for the county. And this has to be addressed, has to be taken care of.
Well, I've also heard that it's not just the pay that nobody has applied either, it's because they don't want to work in there. So, and it's
I
not
can
just,
honestly
it's
tell
just
you,
not the
just about-
pay part of it, that there's not any applications.
I can honestly tell you, just about every dispatcher in there's looking for work.
And the reason being,
Management.
Management. They would like better pay, but it comes down to management.
and then being, I know you guys are ex-jailers, but what do you think, Mick and Mr. Coleman, about the good of the county if it ends up being that we don't have a jail here anymore and we have to outsource that? What do you think of that?
I think it's gonna cost the county more money.
It is going to cost.
Yeah, there's nothing free, that's for sure. I mean, transportation is gonna be a
right.
big item.
And you're still gonna have to pay to, maintain the jail as well.
Mm-hmm.
And like you guys were discussing, you're going to have transport officers.
There are no trained
That,
transport
and that's going to be
officers in
expensive,
detention.
having a vehicle to transport.
I've offered to be, to qualify to become a transport officer, while I was still working. And I was very, very rudely told, no, not for you.
Makes two of us.
Mm.
Makes two of us.
Question, why?
Did the sheriff tell you that?
Yes,
That was the sheriff power.
yes, sir. If your employees are offering to help, and you're shutting your employees down at the first sight of any kind of help, well, what good does that do?
Why should you try?
Well, especially for that kind of pay. I hear you, yeah.
I mean, bottom line, a lot of people do a lot of things for, enough money to live on,
Mhm.
But it's just finding that level of how much they can really take.
Right.
Everybody's to that point
Mhm.
right now.
Yeah. I think that, like you said, some people were willing to work here for the low amount of pay because the bubble was okay with maybe the insurance and maybe the vacation and sick pay. But if there's one little thing that drops that bubble down, you can't wear your badge or whatever it is, then that's almost enough
Well,
to break the camel's back.
I very rarely wore my badge, but I had it, put it on my belt if I had to go do something.
Mhm.
But you can't wear your badge because can be used as a weapon? Yeah, but there's a lot of things that can be used as a weapon.
I
If
was,
somebody knows anything, they can kill you with their bare hands.
And
well, the times I was in the Missoula County Jail bringing inmates in there, all the jailers there had a badge on.
well, and that's the thing also with the inmates. I mean, you get a different demeanor from an inmate, you know, when you are wearing a badge. You know,
Command
But-
presence a little bit.
Exactly. And you take that away from, you know, the detention staff, and then, you know, all of a sudden, oh man, they've lost their power.
Mhm.
You know, regardless, the badges we received as detention officers didn't really mean squat,
Mhm.
but to them it did,
Mhm.
and to us it does.
It did, yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I mean, that's why the big thing, turn in your badge, you know.
Yeah. You know, and these are just small examples of.
But they
of
keep
situations.
building.
It's just, it's an ongoing thing. These are just some of the most recent things.
So, I guess my final question, unless the other two have, but what would make the ad in the paper get answered with more serious applicants, or, you know, at least a good pool of people to select from in terms of the pay in Mineral County here? I mean, he said you can go make more at Town Pump, but Town Pump doesn't have full benefits package, you know. They offer health insurance, but you have to pay part of it. So in Mineral County, when we offer what we do, when you know what we do, what would be the rate of pay that's gonna get some interest?
$14, $15 an hour.
What do you say, Mick? $12.50
I'm not gonna
or
say
14?
anything.
Okay, I was just looking for your opinion, but you can,
You're not gonna hear nothing else from me on that.
because it wasn't to pay for you at all.
It was not the pay.
Okay, well, thanks for saying that this may be public, because I might reference it for, I mean, some of the things we write down here in terms of what we're gonna have to change. Or,
Yeah, please do, and, you know, stay in contact with me and let me
Yeah.
know how I can help.
and thanks for your being willing to come in today. Took a little bit of courage. And we only, you know, everybody thinks that we're the bosses at the county, but you know, we're not dictators or kings. The only thing we do is we get to control the budget. So we have options and choices regarding that, and that's about our own authority. But it's still good to hear these things, because then we can pass them on to the elected officials. And then we can also maybe adjust the budget and steer it so that we can either continue to have a jail or get better applicants in one area or another. Dwayne or Lori, anything else? I feel like I'm blabbing up here.
No, you're doing a good
Okay.
job, Roman.
No.
Okay.
Well, it's,
My
this has been building over time.
Oh, yeah.
We've heard complaints before, and, you know, and the money is, I think the money is the one thing that we need to focus on probably the most. And not sliding what Mick said, you know,
Right.
but I think the money would bring in better help. But back to where does the money come from? So do we lay off a deputy to shift that money to you guys?
And, well, currently, we wouldn't have to lay one off. We have two vacancies.
Well, yeah, whether we rehire or
Yeah.
not. But yeah, but I do thank you for your time, and I'm sorry that it didn't work out. And we've got some more tough decisions to make.
And you have found another job?
I have, yeah.
Okay.
Darn.
Are you still gonna be able to live in
I
our
was
fair
gonna
county?
say, is there-
What's that?
Will you still be able to live in our fine county?
Yes, I will.
Good, okay.
Darn. I was hoping maybe we could sway you back.
Not unless you can make, pay
Yeah.
me $20.46 now.
Good for you.
Well, at least we'll still see you around.
Yeah, you'll still see me.
All right.
I'm not going anywhere.
And Mick, I hope you have something down.
I'm not even gonna look for work for 4 or 5 months.
I wish I'd won the lottery ticket. Jeez, that must be
It's
nice.
called driving semi for 30 years.
Oh yeah, you're probably retired from. Good. Yeah, public comment. You can talk about whatever.
Okay. We had a Montana Logging Association chapter meeting last night in St. Regis.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I saw you were stuck working, but it was a good get together. I hosted them at the community center.
Oh, cool.
And it was a handful of Tri-Con people and loggers from Sanders and Mineral County, a smattering, and then the leadership of the MLA from Kalispell. And had a little bite to eat, and most of us took a refresher first aid test.
Oh,
And then we had a good discussion on safety, first aid, and supervision, and all kinds of pertinent things. And then I think it was either Brian Marengo or, because he had spent time out at the mill during the day visiting with truck drivers to get more membership in the MLA among the truck driving side. But anyway, one of their people, John Hanson or Brian Marengo, explained that Congressman Westerman, I think it's Bruce Westerman from Arkansas, is the only forester in Congress.
oh, yeah.
And he's on maybe he leads a committee, I'm not sure of the details, but there will be a panel open to the public Monday at 1 o'clock at the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation to talk about forest management at a national scale. So I presume it's going to relate to the proposed legislation that Senator Baines has been talking about to streamline forest management procedures, get more work done out there. And I asked Angelo if he could send out an email blurb to the Resource Coalition to let that group know about it in case anybody can go in for it. It's open to the public. And when I left home, I hadn't seen anything yet, but he's so busy he might not get around to it. So, I asked Casey if she would maybe send a blurb to the commissioners list about this thing Monday.
Yeah.
If anybody's interested, the forest regulations at the national level.
Monday, October 30th.
Yep, 1 o'clock, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. And I guess Emily might be out of town for training, so I might not be able to get the Resource Coalition email string notified, but there was
Oh,
some.
maybe call Carol.
Yeah, I will.
I bet she could get it put
I
out.
will.
I just seen her over when I was getting a sandwich too.
Are they at Durango's?
No, Jackie.
Oh, okay, because sometimes on Fridays they'll do a little gambling and get a bite at a nugget.
Oh,
I'll look around town for them. Okay. And then on a more somber note, unrelated to that, Fred Gillot, our brother, community brother, St. Regis, his funeral's tomorrow at 11. Graveside at noon with military honors. And then a reception at the community center following that. So we'll be setting up for that tonight. Fred's a big, losing him, I believe it's a big hole in St. Regis. He was the school board chairman. He was our vice.
Who was that?
Fred Gillot. School board chairman, vice president of our community council. He was the chaplain for the Legion post. Did a lot with the kids. Taught that class on basically patriotism, civics, those kinds of things, citizenship. Strong member of the community church, on the board for the community, or for the senior center. I mean, Fred and Barb were very active, and they've been around for about 10 years in the community, and so they really got involved, and were a really good influence on the community.
Does he live just up, the
Little
same,
Joe.
Little Joe?
Yeah.
Bear Tracks his old place, Lord.
Oh,
I think we did a
Jerry Kane's
field
old place.
mitigation problem. on-
Oh, yeah, I think we did, yeah.
I wrote a stewardship prescription for his property with the extension stewardship, landowner stewardship program a few years ago. I was one of the advisors, and I adopted them and helped write a stewardship proposal for their property, because basically after Jim Davis logged it and scraped it down to rock, it hardly had any timber resource on it, but it needed some erosion control, weed control, reforestation. It needed some input, but it would cost money. So I don't think anything really got done along those lines, other than fuel mitigation around the buildings and things. And then, of course, the other topic is Clara Logie, who passed away Tuesday evening.
Oh, really?
99 years and 10 months old.
Wow.
Wow, really?
Denley and his siblings were there, Dylan.
Yeah.
And we had heard days ago, well, a week ago, we had heard that she was failing and the time was near. And so we were letting our church family and friends know. And we got the word Wednesday morning. We talked to Denley last night, and again today. They're trying to put together the arrangements, and with far-flung family members, mainly like Seattle and other places. They landed on November 13th, which is a Monday. I'm not positive of the times yet, but that'll get out. There will be a service in the Superior Multipurpose Room in the afternoon sometime, followed by a catered meal in the basement of Trinity Lutheran Church, which will be a tight fit, but we think that we can make it work. And Rosie will be catering the meal. I'm not sure who's doing the meal for Fred's thing tomorrow. It might also be Rosie.
Fred, wasn't he something to do with something in Washington, Boeing or somebody like
Yeah,
that?
he retired from Boeing.
Yeah,
He was in Army, Navy, and then had a career at Boeing.
yeah.
Yeah, he was only 69, had brain cancer, and they tried to operate 2 months ago. And he just
Really?
Yeah. Clara just wore out, I think.
Well, 99 and 10 months. Pretty good.
Denley's got some cousins or nephews who are preachers that I think will officiate from over on the coast. Of course, then his niece, Laura, is an opera soloist.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of musical talent in that family, all the way through. Okay, tomorrow night is the Harvest Fest at St. Regis. We've got Scarecrow Row. I set it up, but nobody has put any scarecrows out yet. So, Kathy and I we'll be leaving town after Fred's graveside ceremony. We need to get to Missoula for our own church function. So we'll miss the Harvest Fest, but somebody else will have to look out for the scarecrows, and that'll follow right after the lot reception. They'll just kind of regroup and strip things up and get a new meal all set up for the evening program. And so at 6 o'clock there'll be food and music into the evening, as long as people hang around. Family-friendly environment. That's about all I got.
Well, you're a wealth of information.
Lots going on this week.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they mentioned last night that the transition at Tricon will probably be closer to the 15th of November. It's moving that way. I don't quite understand the details of it. I heard that they're buying, Idaho Forest Group is buying the assets, but not the mill, or there's some distinction there I didn't understand.
Well, I think they're buying the mill because they're
We're gonna revamp it. I mean,
redoing a lot of things around there right now. You
Yeah,
know,
they're already-
that's why all that sawdust was moved out.
right. Yeah,
So they're not buying like the piles of pulp and stuff there, they weren't buying them.
right. Maybe that's what, maybe that's
Yeah,
what it meant.
and I think maybe the logs, whatever we run between now and whenever they do that, I think that money will go to Tricon. If there's logs left in there, then there'll be an inventory
Oh, okay.
and they'll be buying that.
Oh, they'll have to distinguish
Yeah, yeah.
whose assets are whose.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
But-
what it was.
Kenny was telling us day before yesterday that they have to get through they passed 2 parts of the stack test on the boiler, but they failed 1 part. And they were, as of yesterday, they were still doing core samples around the mill yard with the drill there, some environmental consulting
Yeah.
outfit.
For hazmat, or
Yeah, so they have to, doing water samples. And they have
anytime
to-
there's a title change, they have to go over
Yeah,
that.
yeah, so all that's gonna take a little more time.
Sure.
And they said that when they started in on their background checks with all their HR and stuff, and they had, when we had the enrollment or the
Interviews.
interviews, they must have had 5 or 6 HR people in there that worked for them, you know, and they said as soon as they started doing the background checks and stuff, everything slowed down to a snail's pace. So first probably wasn't a realistic date anyway, but it still sounds like it's gonna happen, and hopefully it'll be for the better.
Yeah, I checked in on the proceedings when they were doing those interviews, just from the community standpoint, from the community center standpoint, make sure they had what they needed, and then let me know if they needed anything else. Yeah. Okay. So I'll move on.
All right, well, thank you.
We're here, and the topic is the Title III projects, clarification involving the program. So, I was gone last week, so I guess this put on the agenda by you? Okay. All right, anybody want to start then? Because I'm kind of in the dark.
Yeah, I can go ahead and start. So we had a field trip for the Sunrise Fire that Tricon put on, and we also touched on the Title III projects. We looked at One Up Sunrise, and then also the craps over on Johnson Lane. And there was a gentleman from the state there, Eric Warrington, and he was expressing his concerns to Lori about the cost. He thought he could do them, you know, they do projects. He was telling her, I assume, I wasn't in on the conversation, I'm just repeating, that they could do projects for $2,000 an acre. And so I don't know, then some things were brought up in the commissioner meeting. I got a call on Friday night from Lori expressing concerns on cost. And so I got a hold of the contractors, told them that, you know, we may have a problem with costs. Leroy called Lori. Lori said no, it wasn't about costs, it was about the type of projects. So that right there, I just, there's too much being said all around, and I just I need to know what's going on, how to move forward, and what to do. So I brought both contractors that do majority of the work. I brought Skylar, he's a certified forester, does a lot of these, doesn't do Firewise, but does puts projects together, uses outside contractors. And then Roger, I have a meeting with Roger on Monday. We're gonna go look at completed projects and projects in the future.
Oh, okay.
So,
And so I, like I said, I talked to Eric, and, you know, he just asked me how we come up with the costs of the projects. And I told him about the bid sheet thing that you come up with, and that the contractors fill that out, and that's what we go by. And, you know, he expressed that he thought that they were about triple what they should be, based on the projects that he does, the Firewise fuel mitigation projects. And so, I went on the computer and I looked up, Firewise community, what is considered, Firewise fuel mitigation for projects. And, that there was like 3 zones, you do this in zone 1 and zone 2 and zone 3 of what needed to be done. And so, I know that the whole thing is for fuel mitigation, as to keep the home safe from a fire. And he had expressed that he thought that some of these projects were more than what was considered fuel mitigation. I mean, Firewise, and so I guess that was my concern was, are we paying more? I mean, is the homeowner asking us to do more than what we needed to do on a project, price-wise? Could we, some of these projects, be done for less and still be within the Firewise, protect the home? If the homeowner wanted more done than what, needed to be done, should that be at their cost and not ours? Because I want to do as many projects with the money that we have. That's where, what I'm getting at. So yesterday morning, I had Roger, we went out and we looked at some of the projects. And so I asked him, I said, are these within, is this more than what would keep the home Firewise safe? And he thought it was.
On which ones?
We looked at Matt Felt's, Atchison's.
You look at hatches.
You
look at hatches.
Yeah, we went into hatches, which
Yeah.
I thought that one actually,
To me,
what I felt was
to
fuel
me
mitigation.
that one probably meets the
The
fuel
Firewise
mitigation.
fuel mitigation, and that's what my perception of what fuel mitigation is. And then we went out to Mahan's, where it's completely clear
What they
cutted.
told us is they only want trees that have leaves on them left.
Trees that had.
Maples.
Oh,
They don't.
Deciduous trees.
They had really nice fir, this big around that looked like Christmas trees. They didn't want any of those.
They didn't want any coniferous trees that they thought might burn.
All they wanted was maples. And
but if some of those trees were left but trimmed up and a fire come through, would their homes still be safe?
Well, how tall were the trees?
the ones we took down.
Yeah, the smaller ones that were
Oh,
15 foot?
no, they were 40 foot
Oh,
tall.
okay.
The ones that were like the Christmas tree were 40
Yeah,
foot.
40 foot tall.
As I'm doing it, I kind of stand back and I look at it and I say, okay, there's the healthiest trees. And then I stand back again and I say, what's going to be the least time consuming? If I take those 3 smaller trees down and burn those, or I have to process that whole big tree, so I feel that's kind of where I go.
Right, but
So, just for clarification, really quickly, the Fireways, their guidelines only, there was no direction given to me, period. You guys said, go do these projects. There's no requirements, they're guidelines. So, if you guys wanted to move forward with a official program where the landowner has to do, just like with the RC&D, they have to remove They have to create a 10-foot crown spacing. They have to prune up the trees 6 to 10 feet. You know, those are things that have to be done.
But you can go further.
But you can, yeah, you can go, you know, the forester puts together a plan and a prescription, essentially, for the property. So, I guess moving forward, if you have requirements, then I need to know what those are.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth, because I was gonna say that before you said it. We gave her no direction at all when we hired her. We didn't say anything. You said, the one thing that came out of your mouth is, you said, are you gonna take care of the paperwork? And she said, yes, I will take care of all the paperwork. We didn't tell her, go out there, leave the big ones, take the little ones, do this, do that. We didn't tell her any of that.
But
said, "Go do the
we said
job."
fuel mitigation.
Yeah,
and-
so-
But
If a landowner feels like trees are a risk and they want them out,
Then you take them
we're
out.
taking them out.
Except for trees that don't, that
Exactly.
aren't, Firewise doesn't allow coniferous or deciduous trees
Right,
because they're not,
because they're not a risk.
and they're not part of the forest.
Right, so, you know, like with the Mahons, they wanted everything gone. So within the guidelines,
200
it's still,
feet.
they're still considered fuels. The trees are still considered fuels, so they didn't want any fuels. They wanted them gone.
I know.
clear out to the road.
Yes, they wanted them gone.
If it's 200 feet,
Is it within the 200 foot?
Absolutely.
and they can't go clear out to
Absolutely.
a road that's a half mile away.
No.
They
No.
can't,
No.
if it's
No,
within
there are
200 feet.
guidelines.
And even at Hatches, we took 3 trees that were outside of that limit, but we did that on our own. We didn't do that
Well,
under,
this is a picture of at Atchison's, and this is right next to the carport. Those should have been trimmed up.
If they want it. They don't have to do any of it. They're,
But this is for fuel
it doesn't matter.
mitigation.
You guys set no requirements.
We didn't, Lori.
None.
If the landowner
It's set
says,
within
take
200
all the trees within that 200 feet,
Except that one,
Yeah.
or that one.
yeah,
and they can pick and choose, can't they, of what
Sure.
they want?
Yes.
you can set it up any way
But
you
I
we're
want to
know-
set
doing
it
fuel
up.
mitigation, and that is
So
a
then
fuel
you need to
mitigation.
put a program together that has these requirements.
I know Atchinson's didn't want those trees dealt with.
Because what, they like the shade.
They
by
like,
the carport.
they like those trees,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so we didn't, you know, there was a couple, 3 or 4 pine trees that we limbed up, you know, because it had the gall rust on the bottom. We said, well, we'll take that off for you. You know, but we just did what each landowner asked us to do, you know.
And to sit here and guess whether or not when a fire comes through, is that tree gonna burn or not because we trimmed the bottom 10 feet off it? Certainly that's going to help, but there's no guarantee from anyone, but maybe God, that that tree couldn't go up and smoke just like everything else. I mean,
Well, should we look at putting an amount per home, depending on how much money is left? Up to 2,500, up to 5,000.
You certainly can't. Each property is unique on its own. You know, some people have, it's severely overgrown. We're going up Oregon Creek next. I mean, it's just brushy and thick and overgrown. So that project's gonna look completely different than Atchison's. And again, I didn't approve these projects. How much time Lori, how much time have you spent researching this on your own? Title III,
I've been,
since when? So
Since
how
when-
many projects do you guys think that you would have accomplished if you'd given the money back? Where would we be now? How many projects would we have done?
And let's watch the tone. I know it's frustrating, but come on, let's bring this in. This is inappropriate.
You know, like Sharon Alexander, you know, we'd already set up with her that there was a possibility we were gonna take trees down for her, but she didn't have the money.
Oh, though, yeah.
And
One down here at Cedar
she
Creek.
got, and and her insurance canceled.
Mhm.
You know, so now she can get insurance again. If we would have trimmed up the trees with the fuel mitigation standards, she still wouldn't have been able to get insurance. You know, so, I don't know. And I know that we've done the NRCS ones, and what we're doing now, there's no cost comparison. You know, we did the acre plots down at, behind Tricon at the peninsula, there was 8 1-acre plots that the Home Association had us do. And some of them were between $1,200 and some of them were up to $2,800 an acre. But when you start dealing with big trees next to a power line in the house, it's gonna be, the cost is gonna go up, you know. So, I don't know.
So, from an outsider looking in perspective, just let's bring this together a little bit. So, I used to live in this community, I currently don't, but I've seen some of these projects, I know some of the people, and there has been good work done, either from a fuel reduction standpoint, or you're flat out removing trees that somebody otherwise couldn't have removed. And so on a cost analysis, there may have been some work done that was maybe overbid a little bit, but there's been a lot of work done that was highly underbid, especially when you're cutting trees down at power lines, and you're taking my ability, And I've worked with a couple arborists in Missoula, and they're expensive. I mean, $9,500 an hour, or one tree's $12.
Because of buildings, power lines,
Buildings,
wells.
power lines, and the liability.
Mhm.
So, you guys you've done good work, and, you know, I think it was a good thing what you put together.
Skylar,
Maybe-
we haven't done any, the commissioners really haven't done anything.
Well, there was a push to collect the money.
Yeah,
So-
Stacy has done the legwork on this. We hired her to do this job, and she has done the majority of this. She's asked us for okays on these, signing of checks. She has done the legwork, you know.
And I've bid out
I
lots
think she's
of,
done a wonderful job.
yeah, they're good projects. Maybe some of them should have been a little bit different, but it sounds like it's too late to change that. Maybe you guys come up with a new direction moving forward, but, you know, I thumbed through all those projects and looked at them, and I went, well, that could have been way more expensive, or, well, you could have saved a little bit of money there. But on average, they all kind of average right out in the realm of real world costs. And whether or not it would be more or less, it's too late to dispute that, but, you know, you guys are doing, there is good work happening. If you want to tailor this more to Firewise, it might be a little too late, it sounds like. But we can still do that. I think we could still do that, but from what I'm hearing, the kind of the direction was to make the house defensible and achieve the landowner's objectives. That's what I heard on the streets.
Well,
I'm not-
and some of the people probably reacted to this fire summer where
Yeah, there was a lot of
a
fear
lot
in
of
the
our
community.
community members were on evacuation and they were worried about, so some of them probably wanted to go further with the fuels, whether it be a large tree or whatever, because it kind of spooked them. And so I'm sure that some of them were happy to have somebody take out everything if they wanted it. I wouldn't personally want that many trees gone from my place, but the only direction I thought, and my apologies for not giving you much direction, but I'm kind of, like Dwayne said, we kind of gave you the job, and the only direction I thought when I was going out there with you was 200 feet's the magic number. Anything beyond 200, and if they wanted to leave the rose bush and take the ponderosa, or leave the ponderosa and take the rose bush, I thought that was all within kind of the fuel mitigation, because fuel
Well, it
is
is.
something.
We finished up at Swaddlers, and Stacy had us go back, because we left all the juniper, and we protected those juniper, made sure we didn't drag a tree by them, you know, we'd tie a rope on them, pull them over so we wouldn't fall something on them. We went back, cut every one of those juniper down, because Stacy said those are the high-risk ones, get rid of them, so we went back and got rid of all those juniper. And we told Swaddlers, you know, that is a high risk. So they were fine with us taking them down. Is there a time limit on when this money can be spent? Or now that the program's in?
But we have a period that we have to obligate it, and then the money has to be spent a year after that, right? Obligated this year, but spent 2019?
Yeah. Which you guys have already obligated it, starting this program.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think we're gonna run out of money?
Well, currently, according to the numbers I got from our manager, we've spent $117,245.05, and the remaining balance now, because we also had to use some of this money for some mapping, but the remaining balance for projects now is $42,287.46.
And that's just new projects. So every project,
That's been
yeah.
Oh, I
signed
see
up
what-
for.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. So there's a lot of them that
Yeah,
haven't
so
been.
don't-
Haven't been
Dollars
paid out
approved.
yet.
Yeah.
They're on the
Okay.
books, but not
Okay, I
formed or
understand.
paid out.
Yes.
Okay, I
So,
understand.
but, you know, and then, in full disclosure, and I don't know where the meeting's gonna go or what decision in the future, but I had one on there, and just for the record, please kindly take me off. I don't even wanna have any part of it, because I'm a commissioner, and if we're gonna have people questioning anything, I don't even wanna have my name in that.
Well, I guess that's,
No,
I think that's
it's
cool.
fine, it's fine.
you know,
I-
no, but
I
Roman,
can-
if it's fuel mitigation, it shouldn't
It's
matter
fuel
whether
mitigation.
it's you, me, Leroy,
Well,
anyone.
But I just don't want that to be anyone's perception at all, because I really thought that this is a good way. I
is.
agree with Lori in the fact that it's probably not down to the typical government spending of efficiency, where you put it, everybody comes in and bids on it, you know, there might be 3 contractors bidding on the Mahans and the Atchids or whatever, but that would take time in advertising, that would take time in processing and interviewing, and so I just thought this is a good way. The government gave us money to help our homeowners who don't have the means, they don't have a bucket truck, they don't have a dozer, they don't even know how to trim a rose bush, let alone fall a fir tree. This is a way for them to gain peace of mind and to get a little bit of employment in our community. And so I thought it was good in that regard. And Mineral County has been talking to the Forest Service forever about, we need more logs, and maybe there'll even be some logs that go to our mill. But there's a lot of these projects that there's only 2 saw logs on it, the rest is all
Well, you think,
shrubbery.
You know, that one that I
Oh.
signed with Todd Jennings, there isn't a log on that, is there, Stacy?
Very
It's all
few.
brown, yeah.
Which then drives the cost up, because now you're dealing with manual labor more. It's easier to take a saw log, fall a tree, and you run your chainsaw 4 times and put it on a truck, rather than get all the kids out there piling the branches and the bushes. So I don't know.
We can-
I
we
never
can-
really looked at it in the fact that this is gonna be, because we should probably let Roger speak too, because you've done a few of these projects.
Well, you mentioned Oregon Creek. There is such a thing as saying those places are undefensible and we will do no work on it. Now, I'm guilty. I did a project up Oregon Creek. We did that. Dan Fowler did it. They'd done some work ahead of time. I was questioned on that by DNRC. Was that prudent in any way to do that when you know that that is going to burn out? I said, no, I was just trying to break the ice. He said, okay, but I would never do another project in Oregon Creek. I've notified those landowners that that land, their structures are undefensible, and we will therefore we'll do no more work. Every landowner up there when we were working, were informed that if the fire started on this side, if the fire started on this side, the best thing you could do is have your stuff ready and move out, because there is nothing we can do to protect those structures in Oregon Creek.
You know, Roger, with that said,
Yep,
I'd be perfectly happy with that, because that relieves that pressure on us to get another project done.
stop, just stop and think, folks, that's in the bottom of the canyon, and, okay,
Yeah.
there is the thought, non-defensible. There's no sense in spending money on a project that will buy you absolute, and it will certainly not buy the landowner in any way, any protection.
Yeah,
Unless the
just-
Forest Service was willing to go in and
Yeah,
do
I-
mitigate theirs.
That was the
You know,
question
I
I
mean,
was
that would-
that was the question I was gonna ask, Roger, is why is it undefensible?
Because there has been
Because
no
there's too many
management
fuels.
land on those projects, yes.
There's too much fuel around there.
Yeah, it just right, the one way out, that lady at the end
This is
Yeah,
Roberts.
Fine old lady, I had a good visit with her and everything, but if it starts there, it's just gonna come down again.
Well, heaven
You
forbid
just
it
can't
starts at
defend
the
those. And so I was
lower, yeah.
criticized
I
by
mean,
the
that's-
NRC when I did the one project. And so, I just mentioned that. You gotta be honest with the people. And if you can't, I don't care what work you do, you can't get across that creek, you gotta stay this side. It's non-defensible. And just, those people have to live with that thought that if it burns, I'm going to get out of here. You can talk to any one of those families up there and you can ask them, did Hearst ever tell you to have your things ready to go and move up? He said, if the fire started, we just left. And they'll tell you that. It's, okay, that's Oregon Creek. I would cross Oregon Creek off of projects for fuel mitigation, fire-wise program, whatever.
What about Dry Creek?
Pardon?
Dry Creek? The upper Dry Creek, where those houses, that little subdivision is?
In that subdevelopment up there in Dry Creek,
The Rockies area there?
it's not quite as bad as Oregon Creek.
No.
Oregon Creek is, you got heavy timber on both sides of that, and it's gonna come down, and it's gonna come out, and it's, okay, that's,
There's some good guidelines to start with.
But,
Yeah,
diff-
that-
yeah, but conversely, I have seen other projects, DNRC, RC&D, whatever, where they hardly took anything out, and I thought that was hardly worth the money at
Yeah.
all for the little piling of twigs that they did.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, here we have a case where you guys are like taking a lot, which, to me at least, it's noticeable.
Yeah.
'Cause I've seen some of those projects where, why'd they pay that guy to go in there and do that? Because it didn't even do anything.
a prime project, drive up, Fish Creek, no, not Fish Creek, what's the next one, go drive up over the hill. Huh?
Petty Creek?
Petty Creek, Sawmill
Petty
Gulch?
Creek.
Oh,
You go up Petty Creek and you come along, and when Frenchtown was up there, they had a 4-person crew that they did fuel mitigation. They go to the houses, for $100, this is what we'll do, and that's all you have to pay. They picked up everything, the 4-person crew, they took the chipper, and it shows today. They went up that hill at 200 feet there, it's beautiful, all the way through. But that was, Frenchtown's fire crew was doing that, and it only cost the landowner $100. Frenchtown picked it up, that's when the mill was running, and they had quite a bit of money
they
coming in.
had tax dollars, yeah. I don't know if that would happen today, but.
No, it wouldn't, but
And I wonder what the cost per acre there was really, Rod.
that's a good question, I don't know, but I look, every time I go up that road, I look at that, I said, I'd like to take my tractor up, because right above that, where they stopped, is a whole mess of nice down lodgepole, and they had firewood. But they went to that edge, they chipped it all up, and they did a good job. Okay, that's,
So,
I would just
what
say
do you,
non-defensible.
so what's your opinion of today? Do you think we need to redo our, add more stuff to the program, put criteria on it, or just leave it as is of 200 feet?
You know, I worked under a different program. We worked 50-50, or 75-25. So therefore, finances were one thing that we considered. But the person doing that project that goes in to look at the landowner and say, we want to make this place defensible for the fire department. They could be, ought to be able to come in, go around and save that structure. That's the premise of the program. To do that, you have to take out, to find the fuels. You can still leave some of the bigger fuels.
You
To make
can
the
still, or you
landowner-
should?
Pardon?
You can still, or you should?
You should take out the small, finer material that furnishes that fire
Right.
front, okay? And that has to be around the house within 200 feet, whatever it is. Many trees can be left limbed up. If the tree's gonna burn, you're gonna have to do a way a lot more work than what we're going to do with Firewise programs. Firewise programs are designed to protect that structure from small diameter, 100 so many feet, it depends upon the slope. when I used to do it, I'd mark the trees that I thought, the stuff that should come out. I'd go to the landowner. I said, I'll be gone for a couple of weeks. You study this. If this is what, if you want one of these trees that are marked, tell me, and we'll adjust. We can take some out. I used ribbon because then there's no mark. 90% of all the time, the landowner did not go out and look. We'll accept your recommendation. So whoever was going to do it, then they go in and they take off what was marked, and we went from there, okay? If the landowner wanted to take more trees off than were designed when we looked at it as a group, then that would be deducted from the cost. If it was a usable product, it was deducted from the cost that went into that program. And other than that,
What we've looked at, you know, is a lot of the trees we've taken down had really bad gall rust. And the state forester told me that those trees are gonna die. You know, so, the landowner has said, well, I'm gonna get this tree taken down for free today, but if I wait 3 years and it's dead, then it's gonna cost me money.
Yep.
I might as well have it taken down
Yep.
under this program.
and that's no hang up. If that tree's gonna die, there's no sense in leaving it lay there
Yeah.
till it dies and then causing a problem. No,
So,
but I think the landowner is included in that discussion, and if the landowner says, yeah, take it down, or if the landowner says, no, I'll wait and let it die and then see what happens, then that's that decision of the landowner. I think they have to recognize that.
And I think that's what we've been doing. I mean, it sure sounds like it to me. I haven't went out and talked to the landowners, but like Stacy does.
we haven't had, I don't know about, I can't remember your name. Brandon. I don't know about Brandon, but we haven't had any dissatisfied people.
No, I haven't heard of Pete.
No, I
That's-
haven't. But, okay, say, like on this, if the landowner, like on that picture, you know, and if a fire was to come through there, those trees would go and probably burn down their carport. So, isn't it up to you then to say, hey, we need to at least limb these up so that if there's a ground fire comes through, those trees aren't gonna torch?
Yes, that's a good point, and I think it's that one where they had that clump of fir trees around that. If you did a few mitigation on that project and you left that, you're negligent in your duty to that landowner to protect that structure.
So then
I don't care what they say, you're still negligent, because that's going to fuel everything that you've done to protect that structure. You have to protect the structure so the fire department has a chance to save that building. That's the,
So that was probably a mistake on our part for not doing that.
yes, I'd say that was a mistake on your part, but you have to converse with the landowner. The landowner
Right.
has to understand why you're taking that out of there.
Why you're there
We
to
can
do
go
the
back and,
project.
you know, talk to Atkinson's, and if they, you know, say, yeah, go ahead and do that, we'll do that.
Okay, well,
You know.
I wasn't picking on you.
No, I don't
No,
care.
I-
I don't mind being picked on,
Well,
so.
No.
well, I don't think, Roger, I think your example is negligent if they don't insist on taking it out. But if the landowner says, absolutely not, that's my sacred Grandma Henrietta's tree, you're not taking it, Mr. Golden. He's made it fully aware to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're holding on to it. I mean, how can you have a program that goes in and tramples the landowner's property rights by saying,
Yeah,
you know what,
you can't.
we're doing this program, so we're cutting
Yeah,
this,
you
this,
can't.
and, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
But
mean,
we
you're
can
negligent.
suggest it, though.
You're
Yeah.
negligent, yeah, you gotta suggest
So we didn't
it.
understand that either, so.
But you're
Yeah.
coming in to do a project for
Yes.
fuel mitigation, and if they don't want to do complete fuel mitigation, then maybe you say, well, then I guess.
I understand
you know.
that, but we're all new to this
Right, well,
process.
yeah, you
You know, so
know.
we gotta
Like I
work
say,
it out.
we didn't give anybody any
No,
direction.
Yeah,
when
like I said, we
set
gotta
this
work it out
Yep.
so that everybody's happy and,
You want the
Program
landowner
can
happy
continue.
when you're done.
Right.
Yep.
That's the
Right.
biggest thing. The landowner has to be happy, otherwise they
Yeah.
figure they really got screwed someplace along the
And you
line.
want a good project.
Right, yeah. But I just want to make sure that we're getting as many projects done with the amount of money that we've got, you know, because in the end, you know, if we have a landowner that said, well, I wanted mine done.
Then they should
But-
have come forward.
Well,
It wasn't like
we
then
did.
what if it's somebody that just bought the property?
Yeah, that's true.
You know, just bought the property. Hey, I want mine done, but we don't have any money left because we spent, you know.
But we're gonna run out of
when a-
money no matter
Well,
what.
yeah, I
Somebody's gonna
agree.
come
You're
along.
always gonna have that.
When you
day.
have a finite
Right.
resource like money. So,
Tell them to
Well,
go to
I
Congress
just-
and tell them to renew the Title III money.
So, do we continue the way we're going and just suggest those things, that this is fuel mitigation, this tree here should be taken?
well,
This tree,
well, I think Lori just changed the conversation from the type of fuel you're mitigating to the cost. Do we have any problem with the cost, like for the dozer rate, for the labor, for the saws? Is that what we?
Oh,
are we talking about?
The cost, it's just that I don't wanna be going overboard on some of these projects.
Overboard in terms of not cutting the bushes around her carport, or not
And
overboard?
who
in-
says it's overboard?
Well, that's
Who
what I mean.
does?
Are we talking about the cost now, or?
Yeah, I mean.
I just
who-
wanna make sure
Who
that
says,
we're
who
going
says
by
the
the
cost
guidelines
is
of Title
overboard?
III, so that when we get audited,
Do you think the costs are excessive?
I don't, because of what we're doing. You know, you could have someone come in out of Missoula, say like the one tree that we took down at Mahon's, it was a monster. We had to limb it up, top it. It took us all day to do one tree. You know,
Well,
So-
I mean, Stacy doesn't know anything about the dozer prices. She got together with some of the contractors, so, and I guess I'm not asking the wrong guy. You are a contractor, but in all honesty, the large dozer versus the small, the excavator, the bucket truck, did you help arrive at those costs?
yes.
And you think that's in line with Mineral County and maybe,
I think it's a lot cheaper than,
It is.
Yes,
Missoula
I'd have to
County.
think if you got his bucket
It's
for
half
anything
price.
he's doing.
Well,
Yeah, it is about half.
Roman, a perfect
Roman,
example.
what we're trying to do is we're trying to keep Missoula out of Mineral County.
right,
oh, I
right, yeah.
agree. I
And a
agree.
perfect
And if
example
we
in
have to
county.
take less money to do it, we'll do it.
So, Roger, did you echo that the prices are okay on that?
I never saw any of the prices, but I have heard in relation to Bowden's, and I talked to them before, I said, you guys should increase your prices, you're doing this scot-free.
Look at the prices locally. We have another bucket truck that works around here, and he charges quite a bit more than you.
Oh, yeah,
You
yeah.
know.
No, we're lucky.
Yeah.
Because if we're trying to make sure that we're not going overboard on the cost, so there's money left for future projects, where do we need to start a discussion? At the prices on the sheet, or at the, what do we need to talk about to make the costs?
I don't think you can, if everybody is okay with the equipment prices, it's a matter of looking at the project and seeing what's involved. And that's just what she's been doing.
You could tweak them a little bit. I mean, say you're just gonna thin Christmas trees out and pile it up and burn it and prune up some trees. Well, that's more of a Firewise project. Maybe you can evaluate the costs a little bit on that, and you could lean some costs down to, say you hired Grayback, an example, you hired Grayback or a contractor in the Bitterroot that specializes in thinning and hand piling. Generally, their cost per acre fluctuate, or they'll do it by the hour plus mileage and per diem, and it can be $35 to $40 a man hour just to do kind of physical work. But when you throw the arborist component in, you're down here, and then you go to this level with power lines and houses. So,
And I don't mind.
if you handle each project individually, I think you could make sure that things stay in line with what you want to do. But you gave Stacy discretion to make that call, and I've looked at the stuff that she's laid out, and I think she's done a great job with that.
I think she
But
has.
moving forward, you guys better be a little more hands-on with these projects and evaluate the cost versus.
And Stacy might have to realize, hey, this project here, we don't want Brandon or the Godins involved with this, because it is one of those just
'Cause if-
small
if-
diameter.
if
But when they start
Leroy-
dealing with, stuff like this, where you gotta have the bucket truck or whatever.
Is there scenarios?
We have plenty of work, we don't need no more. You know, if there's someone else in the community would like to get involved, you know, wanna do that small diameter
Well,
stuff,
maybe George Reagan would do
slashing.
smaller
I
stuff.
already,
George likes doing the small stuff, doesn't he? He didn't want to show up today either.
no, well,
He doesn't wanna do them, Lori?
why, I have no idea. I'm not even bringing it up, so.
But there are,
I
might
feel
be other
if he-
people
If
that.
he
that
was, if he's interested, he'll
He should have been
get
in.
involved.
Have,
He'll be
have,
involved.
I don't get the mineral in it at all. Have you, the county commissioners ever put in a thing saying, hey, this Title III money is available, to let landowners know or other contractors know that there's,
Well, we had it in
Well, earlier this
earlier,
summer,
but maybe
there was
maybe we need to put it in again to let.
Well,
you
you're
know.
down
But
to,
then, not everybody gets a mineral either.
you're down to what now? You say 40,000?
43,000,
Pull out
42.
Oregon Creek, you would increase it by 30 grand probably. A little under that.
So we'll go from 42 to 70.
yeah.
But
You know, moving forward, it would probably be good to hammer out a few out guidelines like Roger laid out, areas that have already kind of been deemed undefensible, and, you know, adopt that into your guys' plan moving forward. If you don't wanna really waste money on it, so
well,
something that you think.
that's Roger's opinion. Are you
But-
the same belief that Oregon Creek's a waste of money on that, you know, at home?
That's their home, and
That's what I mean.
Yeah, I
It is
guess
their
I
home.
have
We want to
but-
tell those folks
Yeah, I
that.
have,
Yeah,
I have
say
a
why
problem
we're not
with
doing
that.
anything
I
From
really do.
Since they've already got on board.
from seeing what a wildfire does, there is no judgment call that could ever be made to know what
No,
it's going to do.
it could
Yeah.
burn around.
I've seen,
I mean,
I saw the two houses that burned on the Lolo Peak fire. One of them was the Forest Service's ex-environmental attorney, and his solar panel melted into his house and burned it. And the other people had 7 pine trees that were all limbed up, and it just so happened some needle caught on fire and just jumped around and burned their house.
Yeah, you never.
Then there's other places, like halfway up Mormon Peak there, it's just green around there. They saved that house, but it's completely surrounded on the mountainside with upslope alignment. You just don't know, so you do.
Yeah.
You operate within some guidelines you deem would be responsible and do something. That's what I think, and that's from a logging standpoint. The landowner tells me how they want their property managed, and it's kind of my responsibility to give them a management goal with that being in my respect. Because I may not agree with leaving a Doug fir tree over a larch tree, but if we're gonna still make it defensible by a crown space and discuss species, then that's the species they want, that's what I have to propose to them. And everything I've heard, the landowners are highly involved in these projects, they're out there watching, there's good talk on the projects, so I think you're performing what they want. But, yeah, maybe you screwed up on a couple. You learned your lesson and maybe move forward on
Well,
a
I
different
mean,
direction.
I don't know that we've.
But,
Yeah.
yeah, that, we can debate that.
Yeah,
I-
yeah.
You did good, you did work,
Yeah.
you did something on the
What
ground
are you
for
talking
everybody.
about, Skylar?
Well, I mean, I saw it up on,
I mean,
the
I really-
Sunrise Fire up Quartz Creek. I mean, they had time to, I mean, there was some homes at the end of the road that were completely surrounded by trees. I mean, it would be similar to Oregon Creek. But they knew that the fire was coming there, so they went in and pretty much clear cutted around those cabins, put sprinklers around there and, saved the structure, so.
That property that Ted Martin had just logged there this spring by
Oh,
Crab's place
pigeons.
there, for pigeons, and they still lost a lot of trees,
Small.
even if small, but it's still red slosh or whatever. Every case is different, and you don't know how it's gonna happen. And but you guys, these are good projects. So
Roger.
You are doing good things.
There was a fire about 4 years ago, and the local fire department went up and said, "Can't do anything about your house, it's non-defensible." And he said, "What do I have to do to make this defensible?" He says, "First off, we've got to be able to get our fire truck turned around someplace around here." He said, so they talked about it, so before the season was over, they said, "Come back and inspect my property now." They went back and that guy had hired a cat, he dug out that bank. He made his house defensible for the fire department to bring their rigs in and everything. He recognized it, they told him, and so he corrected that mistake himself, yeah. That was right here for the local fire department, but, they do it, yeah.
Well,
I'm confused. I'm really confused because one of the projects that was, the Mahone project, they took all the fuels, and that's not right, because that's not a fire-wise. Then Lori just stated that they took a ton of trees, basically clear-cut cabins up to defend against the sunrise fire, which is essentially what we just did at Mahane's. Then somebody just said that Oregon Creek's not defensible, we shouldn't do those projects, but maybe if you went in and did some work, maybe you could defend it, so.
well, I was just about to ask Roger the question. Besides being scolded by another forester that you should never have spent the money on that, does it say in the program, does it describe which areas you should not spend money on because they're, quote, indefensible?
No.
Well, I don't want to be the one to tell
Right.
anyone up Oregon
agree.
Creek or anywhere else, we're not going to deem your house worthy unless our fire warden is going to state that. If there's
Yeah.
nothing in the print and there's nothing,
No,
then I think we should do the Oregon Creek.
I do too.
I think it'd be wrong not to if they've already been told.
It'd be
Right.
really hard to go up there and tell
Well,
them
and
that they.
even if they hadn't already been told, how do we tell them,
Yeah.
well, we're God and we think that your house is never going to be
Right.
salvageable?
And then what are you telling their insurance company?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, when we started raising hell about all the fuel on this forest in Mineral County, what was the first thing that happened? Homes on the golf course in St. Regis, Montana were
Lost their
uninsurable. You know, you
Scratch.
need to remove trees, and not so much on the golf course, our surrounding forest.
Well, even look, Dwayne, this summer, people could not get a loan because of the Lowell Creek, Lowell Peak fire.
Well, they did it on the Sunrise too.
Yeah.
There's a guy up Deep Creek there
Yeah.
that's building a home, and until the Sunrise fire was 95% contained,
Yeah.
he could not get insurance.
Yeah, I
on
guess
it.
I was talking to George Spangler, and he said, we cannot sell any property now, you know, because people can't get loans on it. You know, so what do you do?
My opinion is we go on Oregon Creek. I don't know what these two think. I have already signed off on Oregon Creek.
I don't
for
think
one
we
thing,
can
but-
tell somebody no unless
No.
it's in the directive.
No, and it's not. Those are suggestions, those are recommendations, which makes that whole program so tippy-toey that it has been from the beginning. You know, since they went from the old money to the new money, there has been rules and regulations. By God, you can throw a street party and you can sell or give away hot dogs on a Firewise day, but you can't go out and cut a tree down in somebody's yard. You know, that's not right. Those are suggestions, those are not in recommendations.
I'm
They're
totally
not rules.
I'm totally against the cost that it costs to fight a fire. But if we're gonna spend the money, why not allow the people in Mineral County to
Get some
put
use
that
out of
money
it.
in their pocket instead of someone from New Mexico or Arizona coming up here.
Exactly.
And so, same way with this, you know, we might as well keep the money in the county if we can and use
Well,
it.
you know, like you talk about monitoring, I went out on like 10 projects with Stacy and I got a pretty good feel out there on the ground. In fact, I even had her call back a guy on a subsequent one and adjust the bid. But as long as we have good photos, I think that we're able to evaluate most of them. And if there is a question, we call her and go out on site. And in my opinion, we should do the Oregon Gulch one. And I think that, I mean, I don't know about this crowning and this and that and how you, I really want to leave the landowners and the ultimate authority. They might prize this little bush as long as the contractors are advising them of what the recommendations are. If someone says, well, I hear you, but I'm going to insist that even if it burns down my woodshed, that I'm going to take that chance. But the rest of it, if it's fuel within 200 feet of their home, you know, I think that it should be however much they want to do. And the more they do, then the price goes up. The less they do, the price goes down. So it's all commensurate with the cost, or it should be. I mean, I don't know how else to implement rules and criteria without it becoming a little more complicated or time consuming, but suggestions, anybody, or what do you think, Roger, from this day going forward?
Yeah, the commitment's been made, I guess. I just want to be sure that, I talked to the landowners, they all know it, that whatever we're doing here is moot. Because when that fire comes down on that hill, it's gonna wipe you out. And so don't bank on the fact that the house will be here when the fire comes through. We have to be honest.
Unless the Forest Service decides to do something with their
Yeah,
timber
but
base.
at this point, we seem behind that worse.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanna make sure that if you're going in and doing fuel mitigation, I mean, whatever, that it's all done. I mean, if they say, well, no, I want this down here, well, you have to explain to them that if a fire comes through, that's gonna go up, and so we're coming in here to do a job, and we wanna make sure, we wanna do it right. This is what, you know.
So do you turn them down, Lori, then, if they say, no, I want that
Well-
tree left?
I think all you can do is make them aware, you know?
But then why
It's
do
just
all the
like-
other work if you're not making
Because
it
you are
fire-wide
doing
safe?
part of it.
You're still doing, yeah, I mean, you're not
It'd
spending
be
the
just
money.
like the argument of leaving the big one, taking the little one. Has it made it safer?
What happens
Really
if the
don't
big one
know.
catches on fire?
Yeah, you really don't know until that happens, but.
To reduce fuels, to mitigate, that's
Yeah.
the word means, I guess, but.
I've only done a few projects, but the landowners are more than willing on my part to
Take
go
care
with
of
my
it.
suggestions.
Good,
Absolutely are.
good.
And I do. There is some guys that they are sentimental to trees, you know?
Oh, Dan Feller said in the first meeting that we had on this, he said, you know, we spent thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars on that one ranch down in the Bitterroot, because that's what the landowner wanted to do. You know?
If the landowner was really concerned, they had done some of that work prior to.
Yeah, except that, you
Some
know,
of them are
some of these
elderly.
folks
Yeah.
don't even,
No, they'd have.
until we have a bad fire year, nobody, you know?
Yeah,
Some of them can't afford to cut the trees down.
Yeah,
You guys
that's
cut
true.
down.
Oh, I
And
can't-
that's the other thing about this program that I think that was a very good idea, is that we made that money available. We're not doing a match where they have to come up with money, you know. Our main goal here was to get rid of this money, because the auditors at this time a year ago said, you got this pot of money sitting here and it shouldn't be sitting here, you guys gotta do something with it. And Stacy has taken that ball and run with it, and we're doing those projects.
Guess I don't need to take you out on Monday because you've already been out. We'll go ahead and cancel that.
Some of those projects, I mean, would be $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 if you're doing for 10. The tree work, especially that one you're signing up for, where you're gonna take down power lines.
Yeah, I actually have to have the power company and remove the power line. And
Then
then
you're
I
gonna
have to fall.
a tree, or
I have
or
like
several trees.
about 10 trees, and they're all around houses and driveways and fences, and I have to have, they have to land in the right spot. You know, I mean,
How many wedges are you gonna use?
well, the last project I did, I went through 3 wedges. Yeah, I
We
mean,
use one, Roman. Rubber tired skidder, 60
John
feet
Deere.
up.
well, I also have a winch truck that I winch them over. I leave a lot of meat on them, and I winch them, I pull them over. So, I mean, and that's all time, and
Yeah.
one tree can take, like you said, a day.
Was
It's
that a
easy-
ponderosa pine, the monster? And where'd you take that log to?
They went to Tricon. I don't know what Tricon did with it. They probably had to sell it to
Send it to
someone else
TRL.
that can handle it. But no, we've had power lines down at Atchinson's on both sides of their house.
Oh,
We've had
really?
Mahon's, power lines down all day.
Thank you, Alan.
And then we've had the fence down, so. Deal with the septics.
Yes,
Septic tank.
both places I'm at I had to work around the septics too, and that's,
I think Sherry Spangler has one out at Second Creek. It's on the thing, and there's 2 septics there, and power lines everywhere. The big transmission line is right there. You know, so it's going to be an interesting project. Then you got to deal with the dog graveyard. We had to make sure we protected the dog graveyard out of Mahans.
Their own
There's
person-
there's sentimental things there that you gotta
Yeah.
protect.
So are you still confused, Stacy? And have we gotten it straightened out here?
I'm good. I'm trying to just do what's right for the county. That's all I'm trying to do.
I think, though, you know, Lori brought that up, is we have to make the landowners aware of this.
This is what we're coming in to do.
This is
No
what,
mitigation.
this is what we
and this
should
is-
do. If you want other things done, then you know, we have to do what you want, but this is what is suggested.
Yep.
I guess that's about the only criteria that we can go with, you know, and if they want all their trees taken down, I guess you take all their trees down. Because we can't be the ones, like Roman said, that we can't play God and say, okay, we're gonna do this and it's gonna be protected. So.
All right, well, thank you guys for coming in.
Yeah, thanks, Larry.
Yeah, be careful, my
Thanks,
guy.
Roger.
Be careful.
It is really nerve wracking though.
oh yeah.
You know, until
Who
you get-
helps you?
My wife for the most
Oh,
part.
really? She's a
Um,
daredevil.
But my dad, when I'm running the boom truck and
She's the
pulling the
climber.
danger trees, my dad does the
one's
sawing
yours.
and I run the truck.
Oh, okay.
For the most part.
I know who his help is, I just didn't know who yours
Yeah,
is.
yeah. No, my wife's an incredible woman.
These, I need to, if you guys approve them, I just need those back. These ones are completed.
Okay, all right, thank you.
If you go to the Loxaw Lodge and you see those stumps around the lodge there, that was a Tricon, part of a Forest Service sale, and they had to hire arborists to cut down those big rotten cedar trees around the Loxaw Lodge.
Uh-huh.
And they deemed that fuel mitigation, and we would cut down one cedar tree in the middle of 6 other ones. If you ever see those stumps there, that was a Tricon pain and suffering ordeal, where I hired a arborist. Every day they cut 1 or 2 cedar trees down piece by piece right next to the cabins and lowered them down on lines, and just reduced the hazard by Forest Service standard.
I don't know,
Scratch your head.
what's the people's name out there next to Mahan? Towards the bark plant?
Oh, Stepan, S-T-E-P-A-N.
Stepan. Norma Stepan? When Kevin Donnelly did
Yeah, I
that,
helped Kevin set that one up.
when they logged that, he had his clipper out there.
It was the safest way to do it was with the clipper.
But he had us come in and pull
Oh, yeah, you
7 or
helped
8
too.
trees for him because they were too close to the house, you know.
And they said their insurance was getting rejected
Yeah.
because of the trees.
Okay, I gotta go help drag an elk, so.
All right, that's good. You guys get a moose? Will you get the moose, your wife, or was that your brother's wife?
She got one last year.
Oh,
She got
no,
a sheep.
sheep.
got a
Sorry,
sheep.
sheep. Your wife was after
She hasn't got
sheep.
it yet.